Mhm.
So we're going to talk about the 10 things to keep us sane that Florence Capello, Zenshin Florence Capello sent out this past week, I think it was. So the first one is that when something is difficult or not what you want, allow yourself to grieve or rage or feel whatever you feel, and the places you and do it in places where you can express those feelings. You're not a bad Buddhist for expressing those feelings though and feeling them. And I've been having a lot of rage and fear. Um, and so I thought it was interesting because when I looked at these, they're really related to our precepts and the five in the eight, the Noble Eightfold Path. And so this first one, let yourself grieve or rage or feel whatever you feel. It's really related to mindfulness, the fact that you pay really close attention to what it is that you're really feeling. And concentration too, because that allows you to really look at that. And actually right effort also. And then and metta, because I love Thich Nhat Hanh was one of my very earliest teachers, and he has this wonderful thing that he does. He deals with anger a lot, and so when he has anger, he imagines it as a baby, and he puts it in his arms, and he says, there, anger, there," and acknowledges that it's there, and it's like talking to another part of yourself almost, but not really, but sort of.
Mhm.
And allowing that to be there because it really is. So that's the first one. Find ways of grounding, being outside, meditation, prayer, and do them daily. And so this is one of those where I would really encourage you to do some kind of meditation every day, whether it's sitting meditation or whether it's walking meditation or lying down meditation, whatever it is that you need to do to take yourself to just being in the very present. And so again, oh, this was a quote that I wanted to use from Thich Nhat Hanh. He said, the biggest fear is that we will become nothing, or what we do is not worth something. And so let yourself feel those feelings. But the second one is to find ways of grounding. So barefoot is good or in socks, but even when the weather gets warmer outside, so that you're really grounded in the earth. And walking meditation is wonderful. There's various and sundry ways, all kinds. The third step was to titrate the news and find sources that you trust and that come from a perspective that doesn't feed your despair. And so in the precepts that I took with Thich Nhat Hanh many years ago, he talks about consumption and consumption of intoxicants, but he also talks about consumption of news and consumption of movies and consumption of reading. And so we want to be particularly careful about what we take into ourselves, because I find myself triggered by some things, and so I'm really decreasing how much I do with that, because it brings me into a place where I don't like myself. And so find the sources that don't trigger you, that don't make you feel whatever you're feeling. That's not good. If it makes you feel good, that's good. We're going to talk about that in a second. So be wary of anyone who tells you they know what will happen next. And thank you. Practice not knowing and keep asking yourself, am I sure? Am I sure that that's going to be the outcome? Am I sure? And that three word phrase is so useful to really take in when somebody says, when they do this, it's gonna like forever, whatever. Then make sure that you go, am I sure? And really, we're talking about being mindful. We're really talking about paying attention. Oh, this was another one from Thich Nhat Hanh. The future you constantly worry about is nothing other than a projection of fears. And then from the past too, that when you feel those feelings, usually often what happens with me is that I get triggered by something that's similar to something in my past that wasn't something I liked or wanted. And then also again, sure that you know whether you're sure. Am I sure? I want to emblazon those on my head. So from the Kalama Sutra too, I want to read this to you because I like this a lot. Those of you that know me may have heard it a million times, but here goes again. So the Kalama Sutra was the people in Kalama had a whole bunch of teachers, and they kept coming and they kept saying they were the only ones and they were the best, and then and so they said, so Buddha came along and they said, well, how do we know what's real and what's not real? Venerable Sir, so I'm going to start later. So this is his answer. It is fitting for you to be perplexed or confused, O Kalamas. It is fitting for you to be in doubt. Doubt. Do not go by oral tradition, by lineage teaching, by hearsay, by a collection of texts, by logic, by inferential reasoning, by reasoned cognition, by the acceptance of a view after pondering it, by the seeming competence of a speaker, or because you think the ascetic is our teacher. But when you know for yourselves, these things are unwholesome, these things are blamable, these things are censured by the wise, these things, if undertaken and practiced, lead to harm and suffering, then you should abandon them. And his words purported to be on his deathbed were, be a light unto yourselves. And so again, do I know that? Am I sure? Am I sure? And when you aren't sure, accept that. Accept the fact that you don't have to know. You don't have to know. In fact, if you come to the world in a place where everything is new, have you ever seen a baby where they're just figured out that their hand is connected to the rest of their body and that they can make them move? And they're like, oh my goodness. So that's that feeling of like awe that can inspire you when new things happen along. So rest and renew, take care of yourself, and that's really metta. If we start with metta with ourselves, we give it to ourselves in order to have enough to give out to other people. And so so metta is really important in this time when things feel sort of chaotic and out of sorts. And so really be careful, take extra time to for resting, but also for finding ways to be in meditation. So 6, cultivate connection, love, and mutual aid. And one of the reasons we gather as a Sangha is that we're relatively like-minded people that come together. And we know that I know that the people here love me and will support me in my practice. And so I use you for that. And make sure that you have at least 1 or 2 really good friends that you could call in the middle of the night if you needed to, if you just got crazy and needed someone to talk to. If you can, find someone if you don't already have them. And that is really taking care of yourself again. It's really not a. Number 7 is do something, even if it's picking one thing or one person to protect. And so I don't have enough energy to go protest when I want to. So I'm making phone calls. I write letters and do all of that. I tell other people what I think is happening. So we don't really know because the news that we get is titrated through other people, and so we don't really have most of the time, unless we hear it, directly, don't really know what's going on. So do something, pick one thing, or one. My daughter's stepmother is a retired lawyer, and she was just totally freaking out. And Kanshin, some of you know, said, well, Christine, do you still have your license? She said, yes. Well, find one place that needs a volunteer lawyer to read something or do something, make it a small enough amount of time that you can do that without hurting yourself. And so so there are certain things that are really important to me, and I've chosen to have those be the things that I'm focusing on. So do one thing, but make it small enough that it feels biteable, that you can actually do it. And that's really about taking right action and being in wisdom. You want to, again, is this the right thing? You want to ask yourself the questions always. Is this the right time? Is this the right mode? Is this the right person? All of those things, ask those questions, but do one thing. 8, listen to inspiring music, watch inspiring films, and read inspiring books. And we have a whole bookshelf of books that you can take and bring back a different one or that one, whatever you want. And so that's really good if that inspires you. We don't watch movies that have any violence in them if we can help it. Sometimes they get in there anyway, and we didn't realize it was going to. But we have a rule in our house that we don't do that. And so there's a group of us that share movie names, and there's movie night here once a month. Usually it's a movie, not always, but often. So it's another place to see that, and listening to music that makes your heart sing. This is wisdom. This is right consumption. It's again on that piece from Thich Nhat Hanh that says, don't take in things that will harm you, take in things that will nourish you and heal you. 9, act locally or at the state level where you can see what a difference you can make. And so it might be in your neighborhood. So I'm in the middle of composing a letter to our neighborhood to tell them that I want to meet some more of the neighbors so that I know all of them, and going to encourage people to have at least know the people on both sides of you and maybe behind you, where your houses back up. So so something it can be very local, it can be extremely local, but do something where you can see that you can make a difference. So that's right action and wisdom again. And 10, connect or reconnect with your deepest vows and live from them regardless of what is happening. So I've taken 2 sets of vows. I took vows with Thich Nhat Hanh in 2007. And I was sort of not I hadn't studied anything. I just said, yeah, I'm going to do that. And he allowed it in the big groups, and so I took it with about 25 other people, took the precepts, and then they said, if you don't read them at least once every 3 weeks, they're null and void. And I was like, well, I don't want these to be null and void, so I've read them through every 6 weeks. And then this past year in 2024, I took the vows with my Zen teacher. And they were longer, there were more of those. But again, she and I meet once a month and she keeps me on that path. She keeps me doing that. And so connect with those deepest vows, values. So that's right thought, that's right action. That's connecting with your wisdom. And so what Zenshin wrote, no matter what happens, we can act from our values. Everyone has values. And she says, what are yours? Each of your values is a compass that can help you know which way to go. Continue to live by your values and you will know what you need to do no matter how bad it gets. You may not know if you're making a difference, but you will know you are living in accord with your deepest truths. And I think that that's a really valuable, good place to end. I'm going to stop the recording. I can do what I do.